Hello, Breakfast Club. I know I am running rather late. I think it is now technically Thursday, but I know Kate's on the West Coast, so hopefully she's uh, still abed and I'm not getting in her way. I wanted to pick up on um, what Paul was saying about the regressive left, because it reminds me of a book I read a few years ago called Liberal Fascism by Jonah Goldberg, which I'd say was not a particularly impressive book, I thought. The basic argument there was that you can find, if you go back and you can find thinkers that led to both um, communists and fascists. I think fairly patently that's not a great argument. Um, the we political thought, political thinking, we don't categorize cladistically. Things do change in a different way, and traditions of thought and sort of schools of political thought, political action do change quite dramatically from what they once were. Look at the Republican Party um, has shifted. The sort of the party systems in the states have shifted quite dramatically. For instance, in Denmark, the classical liberal party, so small government party, is called Venstre. I think I pronounced that correctly, Venstre, which means left, because well, they used to sit on the left of the assembly there. They used to represent the interests of small landowners. Not really a major issue, I think, anymore in Denmark. But I think what I'm getting at is when we talk about this regressive left, I think there's two conceptions of it really. One is that Jonah Goldberg one, which is that across all quote unquote left wing thought, there is, um, if you like, it is marked by its origins, and then it's all going back to some uh, Marxist authoritarian route in some way. It's not it's not an argument I have much time for. I mean, it ignores, for instance, the if you want to take it to that way, the fairly noticeable disagreements between Marx and Bakunin, I think it was, the typical Marxist anarchist split. Um, but also if you look at the Labour Party in Britain, the old joke is that it owes more to Methodism than Marxism. It's quite often just not a particularly useful representation of what's going on. I mean, you look, for instance, at the moment, you've got Corbyn, who I don't think is massively inspired by Marx, but certainly on the left. But a lot of people really within the party really dislike where he's coming from. I think the other, so that's one pack to say it's all the left. The other is the a slightly different one, which is some people in the non crazy left have got so caught up in certain ideas or place so much weight on them that they don't place sufficient weight on other things that should be important. Now, I think there is more to that. So we see that with, and of course, it's it's good to call it regressive left because regressive is a typical term of abuse from the hard left, um, aimed at the right, and all of this with the usual caveat I give about not liking the terms left and right, but they're a useful shorthand in this case. Um, so yeah, it's the idea that people have got so concerned about whatever it happens to be, social justice, that they forget sort of some of the more basic principles of liberty and and due process and so on. I don't think that's an unreasonable criticism, but I don't think it's one that we can just aim at the left, the aggressive left. You see this on in conservative groups where ideas about due process equally can fly out of the windows at times. Um, and just sort of basically empirics and wanting data about, decent data about what's going on. I think one of this the regressive left thing is something we can see in all groups, um, about not really, I, I suppose fundamentally the problem is we're all humans. We all want certain things, and we tend to make humans is ought error. You know, because we want something to be, we start thinking it is. I think that may be where the problem starts to come. I don't know. I mean, maybe you see this at the moment with some of Jeremy Corbyn's supporters. Again, it's maybe that I'm doing exactly the same thing. I don't think that. Well, I disagree with him on very many issues. I don't think that with Corbyn as leader, we have a realistic path to government. Certainly, the recent elections wouldn't suggest that. But a lot of people are very enthusiastic for him and think that, well, of course, other people will support him. So this goes into this thing that people always form groups, and in-group identification can become, as I recall, about the strongest person within the in-group, and so a group tends to get more extreme in its beliefs. Now, whether Facebook and so on has something to do with that, and I've just broken the lid on this pen that I was playing with, and social media, and that we're perhaps more insulated, possibly. I mean, not exclusively, but most people on my Facebook are not hugely dissimilar from me politically. Some are, but most aren't. I don't know. I think the unfortunately it may just be more of an effect of being Hom Sap rather than any sort of malign intention. Just that quite often we don't think as well or as clearly as we think, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's it is somewhat depressing, and people do get into silos and bunkers, myself included, obviously, where it becomes difficult to think clearly about what's going on. Anyway, I think I'll wrap up there. I will see you all in the future.